Hello everybody, good day to you and welcome back to the channel. Glad you guys are here. I know, I'm super glad to be here. We are sitting in a 2010 Kia Sorento with a V6 engine. Customer states that the AC system started blowing hot while driving the other day, and it is here to have that system diagnosed and repaired. So let's get to it. Stay tuned. This is going to be a very good video. Here's our brake rotor. There was our brake rotor. Uh-oh, a Hyundai and a Kia. It's like twin failures. Kia. That's right. We have a Kia. I think it's a Sorento. I believe we've seen this thing in here once upon a time. I forget what we did on it. Yeah, definitely a Sorento. Now, if we take a nice good look around, we are in hot, sunshiny Florida, approaching summertime, and we're going to need some climate control in this particular unit. So I have brought the thermometer with me. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Push button. Let's see. Yep, 156,839 miles on the odometer. Let's get the fan speed going. We're going to turn her all the way down to low. Let's go ahead and pull this thing in. I'm not going to nose it up to get it set up on the lift because I need to gain access from under the hood. And AC on, we're working. This thing is producing approximately 100-degree air at the center vents. Yeah, that's not gonna fly. Let's go ahead and throw this thing in park. We're gonna get under the hood real quick. The first thing I want to do is check to see if the AC compressor is in fact compressing. So it's got a clutch on the front of it, and we want to see if that clutch is engaged and operating. If the clutch is engaged, that tells me that the system has permission to operate from the ECM. If it's not engaged, then permission is denied from the ECM, and then we will have to find out exactly why. Hey, you guys hear that ticking noise? That ticka sounds like a lifter. You guys hear that sound? It's not a lifter. See this right here? That is the evap system purge valve. It's a electronically pulse width modulated, actuated, controlled, computer controlled little solenoid valve. So we've got a connector going here with a power and ground to it. The ECM operates the electronical portion of that valve, and there's a little like a pencil seal inside of there. So it's opening and closing, and that's that clicking sound that we hear. It's not lifters, it's not a blown up engine, it's just the way that they sound. You know, I gotta wonder, when these things were new, if they sounded like that with that clicking noise. If they did people buy them and notice the clicking noise, or was it quieter when these were in first production and they just make noise after a little bit of time? Let me know if you guys ever bought one of those things in a brand new condition, Kia Sorento with the V6. I want to know if these things used to click when they were new, or if this is like a new development, or if that thing is potentially failing. I mean, usually you can hear them, but that one's actually very loud. Anyway, we're off on a tangent, not checking out the AC like we should be. So right over here, front side of the engine, down at the bottom, see that bottom pulley way down yonder? That is the AC compressor. And if we were to take a look at the front section of that pulley, see right there where I'm pointing right there? That thing should be spinning. That's the inner section of the hub, and then the outer section is where the belt is riding on the actual pulley. So when the AC is commanded on, the electromagnetic clutch will be energized, and it will lock into place, connecting the inner hub to the outer pulley ring, and then the belt is able to drive the compressor internals. At this point, this compressor is not compressing, so we need to find out why. I would imagine that it does not have permission from the ECM in order to run. If it does have permission, then we know we have a clutch problem. If there is no permission, then we can speculate the problem is somewhere else. So the most common and first thing to look for is low system pressure. If the system is low, then the pressure sensors on the lines will not allow the ECM to energize the AC compressor, and that would be our fault. So the first thing we need to do here is go ahead and pull the service valves off. That one's tight. Turn. Oh, there we go. We'll pull the valves off. Check the valves for ultraviolet dye to indicate a leak, which that one has some oil in it. That may be a leaker. This one's super dry up here, so probably not, but Let's hit that with a UV light real quick and see if it's leaking or not. I have here a light stick. It's an inspection light. We've got regular lumens, double-sided regular lumens, and then the third feature is this little light up here with a UV bulb in it. If there is dye in the system, this UV light will react to it and it'll show up as a super bright green. And I see a little bit of reaction in there. It may not have a lot of dye, but I just saw a bubble. I did just see a bubble form. Okay, so we do have at least one leak, but that's not enough to go off of. So what I'm gonna do is fetch the machine. We're gonna hook the machine up, see what static pressure is, because it should be equalized on both sides because the compressor is not compressing in order to create refrigerant flow. Let's check static pressure. If pressures are super low, then we can hypothesize that there's a leak. We'll put a half a pound in it, see if the system comes back to life. If it does, then we know it's capable of functioning. Once we've established whether it's capable of functioning or not, then we can proceed with other testing methods to sort out why the system has shut down. Come on, AC machine. Let's roll this unit right on over. These are my oil injection / dye injection devices. What we do is we unscrew the end caps right here, unscrew these because you can see they're different lengths. There's threaded inside. We'll unscrew it to create volume within the cylinder. Fill this full of AC compressor oil, which also has dye inside of it. Then we can connect that to the low side fitting, turn this in. It will decrease the volume in the cylinder, push that oil and dye into the pressurized system, and then it will just assimilate and cycle through, and as it leaks out, we can discover the leak. I need that. I solved the problem of needing an extension cord on this by taking off the power cord and using an extension cord as a power cord. Plug it in, plug it in. Okay, machine's powering on. While this thing boots up, we will connect our service valves. So we've got our high side valve, that's the big one. Pull the collar back, push it down, it clamps on, rotate. And what this is going to do is as I rotate this, it's pushing a little needle downwards. That needle is engaging the center of the Schrader valve in the service ports. It's pushing on that needle or that valve and then opening the valve up. So it's creating a connection to the pressurized lines. Do the same thing on the low side down here. Get on there, please. Gotta line it up just right. Turn it, checking our valves or our gauges. We have no pressure and no pressure. There's a nasty leak in this system. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to install a charge. We're gonna throw in, we'll call it a pound or so. Spec on this is 1.27 to 1.38 pounds. Let's check and see if it has rear air. That's going to affect the charge level. Now, what qualifies as rear air is not vents back here. Like, see that vent there and this vent here? That does not qualify as rear air. Rear air would be indicated with the presence of a control panel back here. So if there was AC controls there, then this would have a rear AC system. This vehicle is not equipped with passenger controlled rear AC words. Okay, so we're gonna send it a charge here. Begin charging. You can't. Insufficient vacuum, I don't care. We're just testing right now. I'm taking all this back out. The machine usually wants us to have a vacuum placed in the system before it delivers any refrigerant. We're gonna do 1.5 pounds because why not? No. How about 1.3? That's better. I like 1.3. It's gonna go in on the low side. So this side over here is going to receive the refrigerant. Now, we're not going to find the leak just by charging it unless it is a massive leak, in which case we will see it and hear it and probably smell it and taste it, which is not okay. You don't want to taste and smell refrigerant. It's not good for you. And we will know very shortly. We're coming up on 50 pounds on the low side. High side's way up. Compressor just came on. That's why high side went up. See that compressor turning down there? So the system is capable of running. We do not have permission from the ECM. It said, no sir, no cooling for you. All right, back inside. We are creating, looks like, what, 70, yeah, about 70 degree air right now. So it's been about 5-10 minutes. We should be cooling off a little bit, but 70 degrees is not enough. I feel the cool, but we are definitely not making cold. So although we were discharged and the system was low, I think it should be making a better cooling than that. However, our pressures say we're about right in line. Look at there, 225. Oh, and rising. What is this? Okay, there we go. That's the expansion valve opening and close. Oh, no, fans. Fans just came on, okay. Or a combination of both. Fans just ran. Expansion valve may be opening and closing. 40 pounds on the low side, 45, that's a little high up. I can live with it. But the system still may be slightly discharged. We should not be seeing that oscillation. I'm gonna give it, we put in 1.3 pounds, right? Front air 1.38 is what it wants. Maybe this does qualify as having rear air. Let's add 4.4 pounds more to put this at max pressure or max charge on a synchronized front and air. So let's add it up to 1.71. So we're gonna charge one more time. We're gonna add 0.4 pounds of refrigerant. I put in 1.3 pounds. I wanna get it up to 1.7 just to see if it cools down slightly. And I wanna see if this oscillation on the high side stops. It could be slightly incorrect on my assumption, or I could be incorrect in my assumption. 0.4 pounds. I'm thinking that this thing did not have rear AC, when in fact it might. It just might. But the pressures will tell us in just a moment. Low side charge is coming up slightly. See that? Now we're up to 90 pounds. That's because the pressure sensor on the low side is detecting the extra pressure that the machine is sending in on that low side port. So we're up to 0.3 pounds. Continue. It needs to add some more. Give it a minute. 0.357, 0.375. We're almost there at our 0.4 pounds. Also, it could have been 0.3 pounds low because I had failed to do the hose compensate. We'll go ahead and do that right now. Hose compensate is where the machine is going to send in a predetermined amount of refrigerant. It's right at 0.3 pounds. It's going to send that in because that's the amount of refrigerant that will be contained within the lines, and the machine does not know that it's not actually in the vehicle yet. So we're actually working on a diluted charge level by failing to hose compensate. So let me get through all my clerical stuff here. Disconnect from the valves. No, we're not going to disconnect. Okay, so now we have the maximum charge as per the sticker, 1.71 pounds, give or take. High side came up a little bit, 46 pounds. And we're still oscillating slightly on the high side. The fans are running right now. When the fans shut down, we should start to see this high side come up some. And that's because pressure is higher inside of the condenser because there is no air flowing over it. Yep, fans are off. High side's coming up, high side's coming up. Watch this, when the fans come back on, there it is, she just came running, she's running, I hear it. High side's coming down. Down, down, down. And then the fan is gonna shut down. It's supposed to cycle like this. The fan is slowing down, you guys see it? And high side is coming up. I would like to see the fan just stay steady on at all times with the AC turned on, but that may not be in the programming logic. Anyway, so now that we've installed more of a charge and we're off on this tangent, let's check our temp inside. And we are looking like we're down to 60. I can take 60 since we're inside in a stationary environment, high humidity, with 98 degrees outside air temp. Yeah, I'd say we can live with that. Okay, so since we do not know if there's dye in this or have not determined how much dye is in here, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot an ounce or so into the system Now it's not just straight dye concentrate, it is oil. It is the PAG oil that goes in the system. We're going to connect this here to the low side, clip that guy on. Now, I feel resistance right here. So if I back off, what's happening is some refrigerant's pulling in. We're just going to go ahead and push that back out. And I'm going to turn this clockwise. It's going to thread down and it's going to press that die or push it into the low side of this AC system here. So I've got some little marks on the edge of the cylinder that I can use as a reference. Screw that down. It's very fine threaded. Uh-oh, we're leaking. My fitting is leaking dye. Okay, unconnect. Let me switch out to the other machine. This one just, it just blew up on me. It was leaking right there at the seal. Okay, so I've got the other injection device in place here. I've already extended this all the way out because this guy is empty. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna unscrew the cap here. And I have a pint bottle of 134 PAG oil with some dye in it. You can see it's nice and super green. We're gonna go ahead and fill this guy up to the brim, like all the way to the threads. Right there. Don't spill it, or you will regret what you have done. Those are bad life choices. We're gonna thread this guy back down. Now there is some air in here. You saw a little bit of an air pocket, and there's air right here inside the tube. What we do not wish to do is inject air into the AC system. Now that can be remedied by holding this thing vertically, but in doing so, we also could potentially let some refrigerant out. So we're gonna purge the air out of this unit right here. Now what this thing is, this is just the tank fill adapter. You can see it just goes right on through. What we do is we connect this guy to the low side. Connect please, there we go. With that connected, we can run the cylinder down and it's going to purge and press out any air that is inside of this unit. So we're just going to give it a couple turns, and once we see refrigerant showing up, or dye rather, oil and dye, once we see that showing up in this fitting, see it right there coming out, now we know all the air has been purged out of the tool and it is ready to use. So I will take this extra, dump that out, get rid of the fitting, come off fitting. Now we'll try again. Intermittent over, mission over, intermission. Okay, attempt number 2 to inject some UV dye into this system. Reconnecting to our low side. We're just gonna give it a few turns. What did I want to do? What did we talk about earlier? That's 1 3/4 ounces, that's 1 1/2 ounce. Let's put about a 1/2 ounce into it. 3/4 of an ounce. Couldn't hurt. Disconnecting. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and let this system operate for about 10-15 minutes. That way all that oil and dye can be distributed evenly through the system. And at that point, if there's an external leak other than that low side fitting, we will be able to find it with the ultraviolet illuminator. Alrighty, 20-minute intermission over, and I'm taking a look here at our high side, and it's still doing that oscillating business when the fan is actuated. I'm not saying that it's not supposed to do that, we're just observing that it's happening. So with the known correct charge in the system, it is functioning as I believe it should. I can't really see any reason why that fan should be, or why that gauge should be doing that. Like I said earlier, I do believe that that fan should just run steady on, but it is what it is. Anyway, we're making about 54-degree air, which I also find that to be acceptable. Now, we're not going to see much up at the top because there is not much up here to observe. We have the thermal expansion valve back here on the firewall. That's basically a temperature actuated valve that functions as the old school orifice tubes used to do. You see, in order to create the cold that we all feel, we have to go from a high pressure liquid to a low pressure gas. It's a very similar experience. Did you ever take a spray paint can, like a rattle can, and spray and spray and spray and spray and spray and go from that high pressure to a lower pressure inside? Well, what happens to the can? It becomes colder because it's losing and transferring energy from that high pressure as it is dispersed out of the nozzle. So that can loses energy, and energy is heat. So once you dissipate the energy in that can, the heat goes out of the can, and then you experience the feeling of cold. That is basically the similar principle to how air conditioning and climate control systems are working. Now, other than all the dye that I spilled everywhere, I see no dye on any of the lines. A bunch of dye down there on top of the tank for the washer solvent, but again, that's not the issue. Checking the O-rings and the fittings around this line here, I see nothing going on there. The back side of the radiator won't give us anything because the condenser's on the front side. So let's take a peek here at the condenser. Yeah, see how there's kind of like that little mini radiator in front of the regular radiator right there through the hole? That's our condenser right there. So we're just gonna pan over this condenser with the UV light, looking for any traces of dye, which I do not see any on the top side. So let us roll around in the dirt a little bit here. The bottom side is often where you're going to find condenser damage. This is due to the fact that rocks and road debris often comes up and strikes the condenser. Now, I do not see any UV dye, but there is something worth noting here. Let's turn on the regular light. Do you guys see what I see? Or more importantly, do you see what I don't see? All of the fins have been chipped away from the front of this condenser. You guys see all that? See those voids right there? That's from stuff slamming into the front of this condenser through these vent holes right here and chipping away at those fins. That's actually going to cause for a very, very poor performance on the AC system. Yeah, look at that. These things are just flopping around everywhere. Hang on, watch this. Watch this right here. I reach in, you just move them around. And there's refrigerant flowing through those. As we speak, we have refrigerant flow. However, the fins are not there to transfer the heat. So naturally, the system is going to be less efficient. Leak or not, I can tell you right now, this thing is going to need a condenser just based on the fact that all those fins are gone. However, still haven't found a leak yet. So, let's go back to our normal culprits here and take a peek at those fittings. And I do see a bubble. I hope the light allows you guys to see on camera. I do see a bubble forming on that low side. Let me disconnect our high side real fast. This is getting hot. High side, hot, 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 fast. Like one of those spiders running through the desert. Oh, there we go. Taking a look in there, we see some dye has showed up. That tells me that this UV dye that we injected has made its way throughout the system. And I'm not seeing any bubbles forming through there at this current point in time. So next, let's check the evaporator. There's a very clever way to check the evaporator. It's not always effective, but sometimes it is, depending on the size of the potential leak. What you can do is you wait for the water to start to drip. Yeah, let's change the light real quick. You wait for the water to start to drip out of the evaporator, and then you can check the water with the ultraviolet light to look for presence of dye. See that? Now, I might have screwed up a little bit because I think there is some dye in here. Or no, look. I thought that the dye that I had spilt from the front of this was making its way into the water, but it is not. But looky here, you guys see that green? See how that green showing up? That is ultraviolet dye that is coming out of the AC condenser. Evaporator, excuse me, the evaporator. So that's telling me that there's potentially a leak at the evaporator core on this vehicle system. Yeah, look at all that right there. whole bunch of dye. I'm gonna get a cup and stick that cup under there, and we're gonna collect some of that water with a cup, and then we can check that water as it's isolated, just in case it's picking up anything from the floor that may be reflective or reactive to the dye. We're gonna isolate it with just a coffee cup. Is this guy really diagnosing a car with a coffee cup? Yes, yes I am, and it's going to work. I gotta tell you, I did not really expect to find an evaporator leaking. That's a dash out kind of job. Anyway, there's our drip area right there. Just gonna push that guy back until we are collecting water. It's blowing across the floor. Get over there. Get in there. There we go. Now we're dripping. Okay, water's dripping into the cup. Let's leave that alone for a little while. Let it collect a couple ounces, then we'll review it one more time. So, we think we've got some direction on this. We know what it is, potentially. We know what it's not. We know that we need to put a condenser in this. The compressor is compressing. So the real question is here is whether or not we find ultraviolet dye inside of that coffee cup down below. That's gonna take a little bit of time for that thing to collect. So let's move on to the part 2, the second stage of our dual diagnostic video. And for that one, we're moving away from Kia and moving on to a Hyundai or a Hyundai or Hyundai. How do you say it? Hyundai? I think that's how they say it. Anyway, it's this Hyundai right here. This one just showed up on the tow truck about 20-30 minutes ago. It is a Sonata. I think it's a 2013 if memory serves. Beep beep. Let's open her up and find out. Looks like we've got a 2011 Hyundai. I was close. I was super duper close. This one came in, like I said, on a tow truck. Not because the dash is cracked, because it died while driving. Uh-oh. Yeah, it did. We have no electrons. Okay, popping the hood. Let's find out what's up with the electrical system here. Haven't you heard? Bird is the word. Big bird too. It's those Florida birds. Let's get the jump box real quick. Yeah, you heard me right. This is the jump box. Hang on. I got tired of those jumper packs that don't work. They cost $400 a piece. So I built this thing instead. 6,000 watt power inverter and a 2,000 watt power inverter. Plus, I think a 400 amp hour battery. Not to mention some fans and junction boxes and relays and switches and stuff. All right, cables coming in. Negatory on the black. Pository on the red. Not suppository. So we will take our super extra long jumper cables, pull these guys through over here on the business end, make sure we don't arc them out. That would be a heck of a fireworks show. Okay, positive coming in. Zzz. Oh, real quick, you know what? Let's check voltage on this battery first before we start adding power to it, just to make sure it is in fact a dead battery. Hang on here. Power this voltmeter up, a couple leads on it. I just want to make sure it's low. I assumed it was because they said it died while driving, and since we do not have a crank condition, I just made the assumption. But survey says, oh yeah, look at that, 8 volts. Okay, let's go ahead and connect our power. Dang, thing's pulling some amps. So at 8 volts, now we're connected. 1350, yeah. You know, I wonder, real quick, let's turn on the high idle. Just see if voltage goes up. There it goes. There, high idle. 1333, 1332, 1325. Voltage is going down. Okay, that's weird. I guess we don't need high idle after all. Well, anyway, we've got power coming to this. let's go ahead and fire it up, see if it's gonna run, see if it's gonna start. So even though this battery's dead, there's enough cable in there and enough battery over there where this thing should light right off, no problem. Beginning engine starting sequence now. Oh yeah, fired right up, no problem. She's alive. Let's put it in park. I guess the tow guy left it in neutral. Good job, tow guy. What if we were on a hill? We could have rolled away. Look at there. 12.8, we went down. Of course we went down. We're pulling a bunch of amps over here. Let's disconnect the extra battery. Hey, look at there. 11.7 volts. 10 volts, 12 volts, there we go. Okay. Wow. All right, so I'm gonna let this thing just kind of hang out. Let that truck charge this battery real quick. That way we've got enough power to pull it in. I'm gonna shut this down and get rid of the loads. I suspect we have a faulty charging system on this Hyundai over here. Let's go back and check our cup real fast on the Kia. I know we're kind of bouncing around everywhere, but it's kind of like it's a manic Monday, I suppose. We reach in here and fetch our cup of water. See if there's any dye in it. Ultraviolet light. Gotta tell you, I'm not seeing it. So that could potentially just be some kind of a reaction with the grease or whatever on the floor, or the dirt, or something of that nature. I'm gonna put this cup back and continue this experiment for the time being. Right back where it was. Let's go ahead and pull in the Hyundai. All right, more time has passed. Let's shut down the jumper box. Phew, powering down. We can go ahead and disconnect. Yeah, we've got 13 volts in here. That should be enough to restart this thing and get it into the building. Let me remove you. Short, hard short with 0 gauge cable, no. All right, let's get inside, get this thing in the building, nose it in, and then we can provide or perform a better kind of diag / evaluation. Okay, climbing back out, let's do one more voltage check just to see where we're hanging out at. And the survey says, yeah, 12 volts. That's just nominal battery voltage right there. The system is not charging in this battery. February of 23, that's not that old. Oh, well, there's our nadir. Looks like it's not too hard to access. Trouble is, I'm not sure if it's gonna fit through this hole right here once we get it apart. I may have to remove the intake manifold. Let's go look up labor time on this alternator real quick and see if I've got to pull this intake off or not. If it calls for like an hour or 8/10, then I know it comes out through there. If it calls for like 2 hours or whatever, then we know we have to pull the intake manifold off to get it out. So let's go ahead and shut this down before I upset some more ECMs. We're gonna get low voltage codes for days. Powering down. Okay, pulling up all data. Right there we go. Parts and labor guide right here. And Alternator, ALTER, and it autofills for the rest of me. Technology, yay. Alternator. And let's see here. Alternator overhaul, no. Alternator R&R, 2.7 hours. So I probably have to remove that intake manifold to get that thing to come out. All right, it's what it is. Let me find one and get it ordered. We're gonna go from there. Okay, so while I'm prepping, I'm just gonna toss a little battery charger on this unit just to get the charge level going back up. So this thing can charge this battery while we work. That way we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. Oh, and it should go without saying, no birds were harmed in the making of this video. I know that seems self-explanatory, but you never know. I did say I was killing birds. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started here. This is gonna go one of 2 ways. Way number 1 is I'm gonna be able to get this belt off, get this bolt, the one below it. We're gonna pull the alternator off the bracket here, flip it over sideways some, disconnect the power wire, which I realize it is still connected with the batteries over there. I will disconnect it before we get to that point. So that's way number one. Way number two is I'm going to attempt that, and I'm going to realize soon thereafter that it is not going to come apart, and I'm going to have to take off the intake manifold. So hopefully we just get away with way number one, but there is a possibility that I'm just doing this the hard way, which I tend to do on occasion. It happens. Oh, by the way, I don't need to go through the entire process of pricing this and calling the customer and getting approval and going through all that rigmarole, because I am aware that they will be fixing this car today. And I have already gained permission to complete the necessary repairs because they know I'm not going to screw them. That also should go without saying, but it is what it is. Now my wrench has bottomed out and I can't get it off because spring pressure on the tensioner is still kind of hanging on to it here. So we're just going to pry the end of that off right there, get this wrench out of the way. Now we can go back in, I think it's a 14 millimeter, it looks like, and we're going to start to work on these bolts that secure this snating unit. Take them all loose, and the one on the bottom, we can't see it. It's right down here under the pulley. I can feel it, and I hope there's just two. If we have only two bolts, this is going to be a possible feasible plan. If there's more than two and I can't find the other ones, then we're pulling the intake off. So I've got the wrench down on that bottom bolt. I could feel it, giving it a pull upwards. Crack it loose maybe. I don't have the strength here, bear with me. It's a tight one. Yeah, there we go, it turned. Re-ratcheting, turning. Or if this is a through bolt that goes into a nut on the back side, that's also going to mess this up pretty bad. Okay, I think it's loose. Loosey-goosey. Reaching back in. Nope. Can't turn it by hand. See how we get the hard one first. That way the one at the top, the easy one, that can help to secure the location of the nadir so it doesn't fall down and put unnecessary friction on the bottom fastener, which is now starting to turn by hand. There's that friction we were talking about. Okay, yep, she's spinning freely now. It's coming out. I do want one of those. That's my nature, my nating unit. Thank you, Dave. Okay, finishing off those threads. I think we got it. Bolts coming out. See it right there. And there's our bottom bolt. Now we're going to find out how hard this job is about to be, or easy. We'll see if that labor guide is accurate or inaccurate. It's one of the two. Seriously? How am I supposed to do that with this, doing this? What is that? Is this my 2.5 hours? Move this bit of hose business here? Seriously? Okay. Well, I guess that's fine. Look, there's a bracket right there with a 10 mil bolt that holds that line down to the body. Let's take that out. Pull that up, see that? Now let's slide that bolt through. There's your 2.5 hours. Found it, maybe. So, pry bar between the bracket and the front housing on the alternator, and we're just gonna try to pry that guy away, walking it out. I did reach behind, and there is a rubber shield over the power cable on this nadir, so we're not risking grounding things out. We're good. And plus there's nothing metal back there. There's just this plastic intake manifold. So we're also good. More pry action. Come on now, come out. Killing me, Smalls. Is this our 2.9 hours? 2.7? 2 point whatever? Something, something. There's a wire stuck to it. We'll pluck that off with a trim tool. Please come out. There we go. I said please and it worked. More pry bar. Got it. Okay, it's loose. Ah, that could have gone easier. Look, the bracket, well, it actually couldn't have because it was in there pretty tight, but the bracket has that slot in it, and that slot is designed for this bolt to sit into. So the bolt will pass through the 2 ears on the alternator, drops into that slot, and then tightens down. That makes for easier installation. So anyway, now the challenge is going to be figuring out how we can maneuver this alternator through this hole right here, which that hole is not really alternator sized. Let's make some space. I'm going to try to remove some of these components here from this intake manifold. Get us a little bit of room to work with here. That's a vacuum solenoid for the intake runners. Let's get the line disconnected. Thing pops off, good. One electrical connector right here. Push you back. And then this solenoid there, that actuator. Sorry, that's the solenoid. This is the actuator. So now we have the actuator gone. Pull that solenoid back. I'm gonna find this 2.7 hours somewhere. Put you right there. Look at that. Now we can see the back of the nader. We're getting somewhere, folks. I think I can get this thing out of here. It's going to work. All right, there's our power wire down below, and this one right here, that is our control connector. Come off. Oh, that's a tough one. That's a very tough one right there. Gravity. You guys see? Not really. Go away, extra connector. By the way, I have not forgotten about our inconclusive cup of water yet. I'm working on it. Anyway, curvy needle nose pliers. That's going to depress the release button on that connector. And we wiggle it out. Look at that. There we go. So now I can unbolt the power wire. So now we can come over here and disconnect our power source real fast. Like, I'll put the charger back on, but we have to not have this battery connected, because if that power wire on the nader slips and grounds out on one of those AC lines, okay, so I need to sneak my paws in here and get a tool on that power wire bolt nut, and I believe that's a 12mm sized. Reverse, unclick. This is our moment of truth, guys. How much does this job really cost? bolt nut fastener. Power wire disconnected. So, are we gonna come out or are we not? Oh baby, look at that. Look at that, there she is. Came right out, no problem. 2.7 hours in my butt. I don't think so. Okay, new nader. Yes, this is a reman nader. Yes, this is, I mean, it's an off-brand. I've heard good things about these. Last time I did an alternator, I declined to use one of these Almanators as the option. See what I did there, Almanator? I did not use one of these, citing that I would have preferred a genuine OEM. And this was for a Ford Escape, I think, or an Explorer. Regardless, I said I didn't really care for those alternators, and the folks in the comments said that they've had good success with them, so I gave them a shot. So let's see if this thing's gonna work out for us or not. Shot and not, haha, I rhymed. Anyway, let's do the classic double check for fitment. We have an adjuster, adjuster. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. When you run your bolt through this nut side over here, as that bolt tightens, it's gonna draw that nut thing in through the bore that's machined into this ear. It's gonna close the gap in the middle there to provide good clamping force for the mount. Anyway, so it has both of the mounts. Make sure they're in the right spot. No. Yeah, no, we're not right here. This is a 3-prong. That's a 4-prong. And this stuff's all in the wrong area. Okay, need to send this back. This is the wrong unit. So now that we have a moment, let's revisit the drain side of our Kia area down here. Wow, look how hot it is today. All that water is dried up. There's our cup of water here. Let's flip the light over and see what see if we get a glow to it. UV side. And I am not seeing any green inside of this water. Revisiting the puddle, remember how we saw that green in there? We still see some green, but it looks like that might have just been some kind of chemical on the floor that has been displaced with the addition of the water. So I do not believe, based on these results, that the evaporator inside of this Kia has any kind of a leak to it. Don't drink that. It's probably good water, but I'm not gonna drink it. Oh yeah, look, there's water with dye in it, and you can see clearly how it's very bright in its luminary properties. So anyway, what to do about this guy? We have a system that's functioning. It is making cold. We found that it does in fact need an condenser. Yeah, 50-degree air. We should have cooled down a little bit. So we're running inefficiently due to the horrible shape and the fins on that condenser. I would say we need to put a condenser in this. We'll re-inspect everything for additional leaks. And I know that's leaking. That's totally leaking. That thing's now full. The oil and dye is starting to fill up that fitting right there. Yeah, so we have a confirmed leak on that one. This guy, probably not enough to make a difference, but we did have a leak, and there's potentially even a leak somewhere at that AC condenser up front, and we just weren't able to detect it with the light. So I'm going to recommend we pull this front end off this thing, pull the cooling package out of it, change the condenser, recharge the system, and then we can send them back on their way. I don't believe the evaporator has a leak to it, and if it does, it caught me by surprise. We may have to check that with a sniffer. In fact, if I do the repair on that, I will check that with a sniffer just to confirm. But the way I have to do that is put a known good charge in it, let it sit overnight with the fan off, windows up, and then first thing in the morning before we start disturbing air in the building, go in there with the sniffer probe and then see if we can detect any refrigerant at that time. What'll happen is it will leak out overnight, and then that entire HVAC box inside will be full of refrigerant. So we want to check that with the fan off, with still air. That way the refrigerant doesn't have a chance to dissipate and dilute. It just remains inside the box in the vehicle, and it's easier to detect. So I'll finish up on checking this evaporator on this probably in the morning. I believe we're done with this particular car for now. All right, crisis averted. We have another replacement again. Just pick this one out by the packaging. Look at that. Let's see what we get here. Looks quite similar to the last one. Let us compare to the original one. There's that flashlight I was looking for. Seriously? I had it. It was magnetized, like right here. I must have hit it with my hat. Yeah, look at that. That was my error. Anyway, here's our new nader yet again. 6 groove, power post, 3 connector, and 3 connectors. So this one is the correct unit. Let's go ahead and drop it down in that hole and drop that washer too. And we'll get her fired up and installed and started and running and charging and all that good stuff. Okay, so it's kind of been a while and I forget what direction this thing was pointed when I took it apart, but I think I can figure it out here. You can only go in so many ways, right? Okay, so that's gonna hang out just like so, I believe. Uh-oh, look, that little slack adjuster, you guys can't see, that little slack adjuster is in too far. Let me show you real quick here. It's not fitting over the ear on the mount, see that? So there's a solution for this. Good to check such things before you start hooking stuff up, because these are very press fit in, and there's not an easy way to retract those little press fittings with the thing down inside of the car. So let me show you how we're going to do this. We take one of the fasteners here, one of the bolts, put it through the hole, thread it in, that way we don't booger the threads up. Now those two pieces of threads for engagement is nowhere near enough, so we're just going to tighten this guy down some, get some threads in to engage that little adjuster, and then I'm going to whack it with a hammer. Okay, we're in position here. Just going to give it a couple love taps. See that? How it pushed it out? I think it pushed it out. I'm gonna hit it again, I didn't see it. I'm gonna push it out until this thing ends up flush. There it goes. Now we're flush. So we can take the bolt back out. Just spin this thing around, give it a flip. And I'm gonna do the same thing with this other adjuster piece here, just to make sure that it goes in like it's supposed to. Hammer time. There we go. It moved. We're in. Okay, let's drop it down back inside of the vehicle one more time. Hey, now that that alternator's out of the way, see the slot right there in the bracket? I've gone and put the bolt in position so we can just slide that into the slot and then tighten it down. We'll do it the way it was originally designed. But we're not doing anything until I get that power connector reconnected. So that's our correct orientation, approximately. Close quarters combat clickage, and yep, there it goes. Wiggle it. It went down in position. This is fantastic. So now take our second bolt, put the AC line up again, slide that guy through, and our new nader is in position. Before I tighten it down, I'm just gonna throw these loose ends on because those are nice and easy to forget. Put the connectors back on their brackets. There's the one down for the compressor. It goes there. Those guys are in, good. 14 millimeter. Faster 14 millimeter. Now as I tighten this bolt, it's going to draw that a little slider in, and it's going to pinch this bracket right here, and that is going to lock this alternator into position. Then let's reach down on the back side on the bottom one, tighten that one down next. And my wrench is flexing, so now I know we have a cheap, proper torque. Click. Okay, reaching down for that bottom one. It's down under the pulley. You guys remember that? That wasn't but, what, 20 minutes ago, right? Yeah, you know. Let's just get that one tight. It's mostly bottomed out, so it should begin to catch very quickly here. I didn't leave a lot of threads left over. Okay, we're coming up on some torque here. It's getting tight. I'm drawing in the nut a little bit more. Now on the way apart, I had to pull up on this, but when I tighten it, I can just stiff arm the wrench and put some weight on it, and that'll make it a little bit easier. Ah, came off. Okay, a little bit of weight, some torque is applied. One more time. There we go, nice and tight. So let us take the solenoid here, pull that guy back out. It has a bracket for a bolt, and that's going to slip into this bung here on the intake. I just realized I'm being absolutely eaten alive by juvenile mosquitoes right now. Juvenile referring to the little ones, the bold ones, the very fast ones, the highly aggressive ones. If they keep it up, they're going to be the dead ones. I will brake clean them into oblivion. It's our connector. Now this goes over that little ball right there on the adjuster lever for the runners. See that right there? Slide that over. Gonna click into place or what? Does it just sit there? No. There. Funny it didn't come off with a snap, but it went on with a snap, didn't it? Okay, two more fasteners here. There's a 10. Another 10. Excellent. Cool. Okay, so now let's head on over to the battery. Let's plug our negative side back in. Zzz. Looking good in the neighborhood. Let's go ahead and clean the mess up. Hit the key, fire this thing up, and then we will check charging system voltage. Wait, error. I made a mistake. I forgot a bracket. Stay. Look, I forgot this little guy. That goes in there. It sandwiches in. Okay. Sandwiching complete. There we go. That's the bracket on the AC line. Finished. Okay, charger disconnected. I'm sure we've got enough electrons in there to get this thing going again. At least for one restart, then the nadir can take over. Shoo! Let's hop on in here. Rekeying, starting the engine. She's back to life. There we go, 13 volts. 1299. Well, it's better than 12. We are charging. Let's turn off some loads real quick and see if this thing's gonna catch up. Keep in mind that it is trying to charge a discharged battery, so that is taking up some of the voltage here. Let's turn everything down. Yeah, here we go, we're coming up, 13.4. So once this battery comes up to a full charge, we're gonna see our normal 14 volts. let's leave it alone for a minute. I'm gonna let it run, and I'm also gonna go ahead and throw on actually a larger charger, and we'll see if we can get 14 something nominal voltage out of this while it's just hanging out at idle. So let's test the theory of a depleted battery causes lowering or lower words charging system voltage. Connect that one. Positive side. Too, by the way, that loose little fitting there. We did that a long time ago when you guys weren't looking. Okay, disconnecting. That's the small charger. There's the big one. Get in there. Cool. Powering on. We'll kick it up 25 amps. We're coming up 13.9, 1388. Yeah, we're coming up on a charge here, so it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. As that battery fills up with electrons, our voltage is going to come back up. Right now, that alternator is probably running full chooch. Battery charger's going at 25 amps, and that's probably giving us, I'm going to call that a 105 amp alternator. So that's giving us 125 amps going into this guy, roundabout. Maybe 80, because the car's sucking up some of it. Regardless, the system is now functioning as designed. This thing is now going to nadir and charge as it should be, and hopefully it'll keep itself off the tow truck in the near future. So, having said all that, I do not believe I have anything more to offer you guys on this particular Hyundai. The Kia over yonder is pending authorization because I don't know if they want to do any repairs to it since it is making cold. If they don't want to fix the condenser, I'm going to slap some valves in there, recharge it, and send it on their way. Just recheck the cup again, and I do not have any drips. It's still down there collecting water. No drips, no dye, no other leaks found except for the only thing I found was that issue with the condenser. So if we're going to do any work with that one, I will have to save that for another video. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think about this dual diag procedure and a singular repair. It's like two birds and one stone. You can do that in the comment section down below. Do not forget to engage with that like button while you're down there. Consider subscribing if you have not already. And most importantly, before I go, do not forget to have yourselves a fantastic day. See you guys later in a video. End of Hyundai, end of charging system, end of hybrid video / diagnostic procedure, end of transmission. Pew.